Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about second guessing people. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, would you think that a engineering manager would lose confidence in a software engineer who finishes the assigned task on time with quality but does not voice his or her opinion in meetings and basically just agrees with all the decisions that the team makes? Nope. I would say that that is a happy manager right there. That is the happiest manager. Having an employee who just goes always with like basically anything that is said and then is able at the same time to deliver on tasks and meet expectations and all that stuff. That is like the ideal employee. Now, the reason why I'm guessing now, pose this question in the manner that you do is because you might have the idea that, well, if you're a little bit laid back or a little bit introverted or you're not expressing opinions or so forth and so forth, that there might be a risk element there. And you would be correct, I would argue. And the reason why I argue that is because here is where I draw the line between tech lead and senior software developer. So usually where I draw the line is that as a senior software developer, depending on, as I like to say, there's two types usually of senior software developers, or it doesn't have to be a senior, it can be a mid-level as well usually. And you either have engine type of people who are more like the thing that you are describing. Basically, they will just execute, usually very well, and they might not have a lot of opinions and ideas about things, but they're really good when it comes to just to deliver. And then you have what I call visionary people who are much more in terms, they are more active minded or active, like a higher level of imagination and vision and foresight and things like that. These are usually the people who can get to become a little bit of philosophers who overcomplicate things and so forth. They have a lot of ideas and usually express their opinions about things and so forth. Now, usually I say that there's a spectrum here between those two main types, and everybody's somewhere on those on that spectrum, in my opinion, at the very least. And so, as you can imagine, and this is actually very common, when a team has fairly competent software developers, but they sort of miss out on the visionary part. Like you basically have just an entire team of engines, especially if those engines have low social skills, which is, I would probably argue, the most common problem that I see. And the way I express it is basically that you have an imbalance in the team. And it doesn't come down to one individual. The one exception here is when you're a tech lead. That's the thing, right? Because, at least in my opinion, engine type of software developers have to be fairly careful when they're tech leads, because if you're never expressing an opinion, if you're not using your seniority or anything like that, then you're not actually leading, you're not actually taking up any space and making sure that things are going to go well, because you're sort of still just thinking as an engine type of senior, where you don't really care so much about the bigger picture. You care about just, here's my task, let's go and execute on that thing. And that works a lot of the time, especially if you might be a more like just, if your job role allows it to work, then it works. But there are situations, guys, where I work with, and it's actually not that long ago, I was in a team where they had an issue with this sort of behavior, where they had people who had fairly low social skills, in terms of like they were engine type of people basically, and they had a really hard time communicating with their stakeholders. So the stakeholders were pretty upset because when like they couldn't communicate efficiently with their customers, and so the product manager feels annoyed and so forth because he doesn't know what's going on, he doesn't feel like they can relate to each other and so forth and so forth, and that becomes a problem. So in this case, they actually had a tech lead who had this issue where tension started building because that person literally couldn't handle the role of leadership. He didn't understand how to communicate effectively with his stakeholders, and that in turns leads to the thing that which is which is the circumstances that I'm talking about, right? Like those circumstances causes now that it means that the stories and the work and so forth start actually degrading, because as I've said 100 times before, guys, if you only focus on delivering what's on the story card, basically just like fundamentalist mindset where you're just going to do what's on the story card, you're going to get a shitty system. I promise you're going to get a shitty system, because no manager, no product owner, no one who is going to give you a set of requirements is going to be able to formalize to you a set of criteria for your system so well that it absolves you from any responsibility to knowing your customers and understanding the bigger picture and stuff like that. Because fundamentally, you can't write a specification so well every single time that the software developers will never make a mistake or misunderstand something or so forth and so forth. So that's why soft skills actually have, at least that's what I argue, soft skills have a correlation to software quality. Soft skills is not just something you do to keep people happy, it's something you need in order to really make sure that you understand what you're supposed to be building, because there's 100 ways of implementing a system, and depending on the nuances of the problem, the type of people you're dealing with, and the type of other systems you might be connecting to, you're gonna write the code in different ways, even if at its core, how many CRUD applications exist in the world, but most people are making some type of CRUD application, but it's each one, the composition is basically always different, and that composition is the thing that I argue basically correlates to architecture, good architecture. And good architecture comes from your ability to, one part, understand the technical stuff, but also to understand the people around you, so you understand what architecture will fit these people so that they can continue delivering on stories and stuff like that. So the thing is, if you're just a regular software developer, as I said, most managers will probably be very happy with you, assuming now, as I said, that you don't have a work circumstances that forces you to have higher social skills. This is very common in, say, startups or smaller teams and things like that, where you might have to be involved more than what you might have to be involved in, say, a sleepy little team in a gigantic corporation where you have scrum masters and agile coaches and everything, where you basically don't have to do anything but show up to the stand up and then deliver stories. That's it, right? You can be full engine, full keep your nose to the grindstone. That is, as I said, not always the case. And so in those situations, your manager might actually talk to you, and you should also know that depending on if you want to be a tech lead or higher ups, so the higher the requirements on you to express opinions and have social skills and so forth in meetings and be present and so forth, that goes up. But on average, guys, you don't have to worry about this sort of stuff, because I will go as far as to say that the vast majority of companies are perfectly happy with having a person who just delivers and can ship things and fix things when they happen and stuff like that, even if things could probably be even better if they actually had opinions and thoughts and so forth. But it's far from a requirement. I've seen enough teams now to tell you that the people who have a lot of ideas and engage are a minority in comparison to the people who do this thing. And I know that that is not always a good thing, but most companies, it doesn't really matter. So what I want you to take away from this is that no, you don't have to be so concerned that your engineering manager is going to lose confidence in you and so forth, because if you the fundamental thing that gives you value as a software developer, the most important thing is that you can deliver on time and that the system is working and stuff like that. So if you are able to fulfill that criteria, the requirements on your soft skills will vary more. The criteria for your tech skills are always going to be the thing that is in high, that's the stuff that most people care about. In certain circumstances, your requirements on soft skills and being able to communicate effectively and so forth will be higher, especially if you're going to go into tech leading or things like that. Again, depends on the company. In one company, it may being the difference between being a engine type of senior and being a tech lead is there's no difference. And I've seen that many times, guys, like teams where they have a quote unquote tech lead who it's basically just another software developer. There is really, really, really little difference. Like you can't make a distinction there. And in some teams, the differences is massive, where you really do have to know how to communicate with people and do all this the administrative stuff and talk and lead and all of this good stuff, right? That comes with the territory. But I wouldn't say that you have to be concerned about that. So if you're not the person who's always speaking your mind and things like that, that's not something that you have to concern yourself all that much with. On average, I would say that it's the people who have too many opinions and are always like causing a stir and stuff like that. They have more to be concerned of in an average company, because most managers, at least what I've seen, they want two things. They want from their employees. They want you to always get along with everybody, and they want you to deliver. If you can do those two things, they're usually happy. That's at least the average manager. Have a great day.